Witam bardzo serdecznie, tu Kaszebscki Princ. Dziś ja mam bardzo fajnego gościa, when przyjechał do Kaszëbë z bardzo daleko, to jest Kanada. David Shulist. David Shulist, tell me something more about you person.
My name is David Shulist. I was born in Canada. I'm a fifth generation Kashubian Canadian. I'm very proud of it.
Okay, you mentioned that you are Kashubian, not Polish?
No, definitely I'm not Polish.
Why is it so? Because the most people who leave Poland in the 18th century, that second or more the third generation thought they were Polish.
Actually, my ancestors, when they left Kaszubia, their homeland here in Europe, they identified themselves as Prussian. So the first place they settled in Canada, they called the Prussian Hills. There was a hill, and they identified themselves as German. I know my great-grandfather, August Shulist, when he came over, his documents were all written in German. Now, later on, they built their church. This was in 1875. And then we were sent a Polish priest, and he said to all the parishioners at that time that you are not Prussian, you're not German, you are Polish. But never ever did they say that you were Kashubian. They already had lost their identity as Kashubians in Europe before they left.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you mentioned that they called the Prussians, but the belief of Prussians were evangelic belief, but Polish and Kashubian were most Catholic belief. They have the Catholic belief.
Yes, exactly. I think they identified themselves as Prussian because of their documents and all that. This had nothing to do with the religion. I know that the Prussian Germans were of Lutheran faith, but our people were of a Catholic faith in that. So once they built their church, it was a Catholic church and so on, but that is where they lost their identity to the Polish identity.
Mm-hmm. And why the Polish priest say to you, you are Polish? Did the priest have no idea what they're talking about? Because when we looked at the history, then they could release that this area was not 100% Polish, no? Because this was Kashubian. Why do you think so? That said you are Polish.
Well, the way I feel here is now that I know my history, I've visited Kaszubia 14 times, and I've connected with Kashubian historians, and history shows that the Kaszub nation has been under either German or Polish rule. It just happens that my ancestors were under German rule, and now they are, of course, today under Polish rule. And when the Germans were under like I would say, the control of the Kaszub land, they wanted to make all Kaszubs into Germans. And when the Polish have the administration over Kaszubia, they wanted to make them Poles or Polish.
Mm. When did you realize that you are Kashubian and not Polish? What was the day? What did you make that you realized you are Kashubian and not Polish?
Well, the thing about it is, since the church was built and we were told that we were Polish, what I was told, and just about everybody else, but for myself personally, I was told that I'm Polish and Polish heritage, and I speak Polish or a dialect of the Polish language, and that Poland was the homeland. And now to find out, there was a fellow by the name of Father Alwarkuski. He went to Kaszubia to research. This is back in the 1980s and 1990s, and he wrote a book called The Saga of the Kaszub People. And I got that for my birthday from my dad when I was 45 years of age. And when I started reading this book, I was wondering, who are these Kaszub people? And when I finished the book, I knew that my identity was Kashubian and not Polish. And more I find is that I don't understand Polish. I thought at first that our ancestors messed up the Polish language, but they did not mess up the Polish language. They didn't even speak the Polish language. So now today, I identify myself only as a Kashubian when it comes to my ancestral ancestry. So the thing here is, when I'm speaking, because my first language is Kashubian, the first day of school, I only spoke Kashubian. I never spoke any other language. And everybody in our community, 10 kilometers around, all spoke Kashubian. And now we know the name of the language. So not only was our national identity taken away from us, but also our language identity.
Może właśnie ty chcesz być sponsorem kanału Kaszebsczi Princ i twoja reklama pojawi się w wywiadach na początku i końca. Zapraszam do współpracy. Pozdrówci, Kaszebscci Princ.
What was the reaction of your family? Because you realized when you was 35 years old, what was the reaction of your family, of your friends, that you said, okay, I finished the book and now I realized that I'm Kashubian?
Yeah, well, what happened was that inspired me to start a society to go build a museum and a heritage park, first of all, just to recognize our Kashubian heritage. And the people embraced this. We built a beautiful heritage park. They've always wanted to know, why is it that we don't understand the Polish, why their traditions are so different. And so they embraced it. They wanted a name. At one point, when the Polish people started coming from Toronto and Montreal, the bigger cities, of course we couldn't understand them. And so they said, the local Kaszubs would say, those people from the city, they're highly educated. They must be speaking high Polish, and we're speaking low Polish. So we ended up degrading ourselves, and we felt like we were peasants, second-class citizens. And then once we found out that our true identity was Kashubian, we just rose to the top. Like now, we never even knew our national colors was gold and black. We didn't know that the griffin was the national emblem, of our nation and our culture and so on. And so once we embraced that, today, after 25 years, you can see gold and black all over the place, the griffin, flags are flying. You never saw that 25 years ago. So the impact of us starting the Wiedno Heritage Society, that's what we call it, it's made a huge impact on our Kashubian identity. Not everybody embraces, because what we're fighting now is grandma and grandpa. And you're wondering, how are we fighting grandma and grandpa? Because right now, some people say, no, that's what grandma told me, that's what grandpa told me, that I am Polish, right? So it's hard to convince them. So the best thing to do with those people is to leave them alone. You'll find out who you are later. Yet they say, even today, some of them say, I speak Polish. And then I said, well, do you understand those people from the city? Oh, no, they speak a different kind of Polish, right? But for myself, I embraced it. I knew exactly, when I read this book, and not only that, my first visit to Kaszubia with my father and my uncle Adam, we found out that we were definitely Kashubian. My father, of course, was puzzled at first, because nobody ever called him Polish or a Polaki, right? He says, how come they're not calling me Polish? All my life, this is what I've been told. And I told my father, says, because you're not Polish. That's why. And then he was trying to figure out, why don't I understand them speaking here when some of those lost their language? And that's one thing I've noticed here in Kaszubia. They have lost their language to the Polish colonist language, and this is the problem, right? So we might be talking to a relative. We're connected to many families. How did they end up losing the language? Yet in Canada, we still speak it. Even today, on my visit to Kaszubia, this is my 14th time, I will sit down at a table with 12, 15 Kaszubs, and I'm the only one speaking Kashubian. This is really strange to me, but that's the reality of today. They're starting to teach it in school, which is good. Then the next generation is going to save it. But a lot of times that when I'm here, they'll be asking, where in Kaszubia, Europe, were you born, right? And I said, I was not born here. I was born in Canada. And they say, please don't talk so crazy. Where were you born in Kaszubia, Europe? Says, no, I wasn't. Then I just stopped and I said, you know what? I'm going to be smart. I'm going to tell them that my ancestors came from Kalisz and Lipusz. And then they say, oh, I know exactly where that is. I know where you were born. And yet I was not born there. They still think I have the language better than 90% of all the Kaszubs that are living here on Kashubian native land.
That's right. That's a very big problem in Kashubian land, because we nearly lost our language. What do you think? What was the situation in your family with the language? Why do you speak so good Kashubian? Why is it so? Do you have special methods to keep the language? Because the problem is the culture of Polish is too big for the Kashubian, and they took over the Kashubian, and the young people they don't see a possibility to learn it, because we have no medias, we have no. You can visit here a kino, and the films are all in Polish. What do you think? What methods can help us to keep the language, and what methods do you have in your family that you are the fifth generation and you speak better Kashubian than we today in Kashubian? It's a shock for me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually amazed that we have kept this going, because whenever you leave your homeland, in this case our ancestors left Kaszubia to a different land, what happened there was that all the Kaszubs settled in one area. So if you're talking, 10 kilometers around, everybody spoke Kashubian. So you could hold on to your language as long as you possibly can. But our ancestors left in 1858. So when it came to about 150 years, you're holding the language, and then the next generation, which is my daughter's generation, and so on, then it changes because of media and so on. Plus, you're living in a country where when you go to school, you have to learn the English language, and not only that, it's got about jobs. So when you go to even to university, and there's no university where I live, so they have to go to the bigger cities. Nobody speaks Kashubian there, right? So that happened. But for 100 years, nobody moved around. They stayed in the area. They raised families, and so that's how you can hold on to a language, right? The problem here in Kaszubia is that the Kaszubs don't rule their own land. They're always either occupied and administrated by others. When our ancestors left Kaszubia, they were under Prussian-German rule. The only time that they would learn German is if they went to school. My mom's grandparents who were born here, they went to school, so they learned a little bit of German, because the Germans had controlled the school system, right? So, but they in Canada, they would speak sometimes German, so the kids would not understand. But having that aside, there wasn't too many of our people in Canada in 1858 that went to school. They basically never went to school. So if they didn't go, they're not going to hold on to it. Here today, since 1920, when Poland started to occupy and rule and administrate our nation and stuff, everybody went to school right from the beginning. And once they went to school, then that was basically the end of it. And I think that's what's happened. So anything in the business world, anything now with, of course, media now, but even from the beginning, they ended up losing it to the Polish language, right? And then they just basically forgot about speaking Kashubian. But also, I was finding out from a lot of my friends is that when they were going to school here, they were actually punished for speaking Kashubian, and this to me is a total crime. I just can't believe it that you built the schools, the Kaszubs built the schools, and yet they were punished for speaking Kashubian. This is absolutely insane, and so basically their language was beaten out of them. But what's funny today is that they're spending millions of zlotys and whatever to teach them. This is how crazy it is, but it's maybe too late. But I never say, I always have hope. Even if you teach the young, when they go to school and they learn the language and they learn it very quickly, they go home, mom and dad don't speak it, grandma and grandpa have lost it, so there's a problem right there. But I have hope for the next generation. So you have children going to school now, learning the Kashubian language, and all of a sudden, guess what? They are also going to grow up, and they will have families, and can pass it on to their children if they want to. So there is some hope, but in a way, I'm sort of afraid that it might be too late. One thing too is I know in Canada, when you're talking about the language and identity, we lost ours in our church because we were always sent to Polish priests. We do not understand the language in the church, and this still puzzles me. 2024, they still have a Polish mass, and of course some identify as Polish, so they say, well, that's our language. But my mom is 95 years old. I go to church with her, and I say, Mom, what is the priest saying? And she says, I don't know, right? My uncle, 94 years of age, doesn't understand. So why do we have that language? But we have been so brainwashed that that's who we are, then they keep sending us a Polish priest. Now, if they ended up sending us a Kashubian priest today, it is too late, because there's only maybe 300 of us left, and we're scattered all over the place. So I would say probably 90% of the parishioners would not understand, even if they were to speak Kashubian. It's too late. When they should have done that is when the new Vatican came in and they said, all churches, if you want to use your native language in your church, yes, you can. But in the 1960s, because we identified ourselves as Polish, guess what? We had to call up and continue saying or having a Polish priest, right? And of course, they didn't know who we were. And again, they were always saying that we were Polish. So that is the problem. That's where we lost our identity. And yet it's hard to tell the bishop that really, wouldn't it be nice if we could have a Kashubian priest? But at the same time, I'm Kashubian, heart and soul, without a question. My first language is Kashubian. I still speak it. But if I was to become a priest, I could not be a parish priest in the parish that I was baptized and I go to, because I do not speak the foreign language, which in this case is Polish, right? They even identified our church as a Polish parish, yet the Kaszubs built it. The Kaszubs have gotten the short end of the sticks all our lives, and this is why my passion is so strong, because I know that our identity was stolen from us, and maybe through a simulation or whatever. So my passion is, I want Kaszubs to realize they are part of something very unique, part of a Slavic nation that is strong and needs to be lifted up higher. And we have to stop saying that we are Polish, because we are not. And the reason I'm saying that I'm not Polish anymore is because my ancestors were not born in Poland. They were born in Kaszubia. And at the time, they were under Prussian-German rule. And then somebody asked me, oh, so you're Prussian-German? I said, no, I am not. Just because they were the administrators, that's not who I am. Even today, under Polish administration, are these people here Polish? Absolutely. Some I've met here, their heart and soul is Kashubian. Says, no, I am not Polish. Yes, my documents, my passport, all this is written in Polish, and I'm a Polish citizen. But they say, nationally, culturally, ethnically, I am Kashubian. And this is who I am right now. I am playing the role of Remus. I don't know if you know the story of Remus.
Of course.
He traveled and walked around with his wheelbarrow across Kaszubia. his whole goal was he was fighting Germanization, because at that time, Kaszubia was under German rule, and he fought Germanization, fought it. And today, the new Ramus, which is Ramus II, that's me. Now that I know my history and so on, my goal and what I'm fighting here is Polonization. And I have nothing against the Polish. Absolutely love the Polish, because I ended up marrying a Polish lady.
Yeah.
But I want to make everybody understand that you have a national identity. Everybody identifies themselves. Catalonians are Catalonians, and Sicilians are Sicilians, even if somebody else is governing them, right? My wife, who is of Polish heritage, totally understands the situation. 5 years ago, my daughter Jennifer said, "Dad, I want to go to Kaszubsczi. You've been talking about it so long." And then she was almost getting tired of it when she was younger. When she got older and married and said, "Dad, I'd like to go to Kaszubscci." When she came here, she thought she was at home. She sat down with those people with the same names. Anya Lubetsky here, her best friend in Canada was Jennifer Lubetsky. She felt at home. And when she went back home, she says, "Dad, I know exactly what you're saying. I am Kashubian also, and I'm very proud of it." That was a moment.
Great, great. You mentioned so many things. One thing is very important for me, because it's a very big taboo on Kaszubim, because Kashubian people at the church, the church had a very important position here. And my opinion is also so that the belief or the church the church in Kaszubsczi was always Polish. It changed a little bit now, because we have our great priests Kaszubians, but Sunovo, Shanovo. In few weeks there will be the big mass in Shanovo, and the bishop. I went everywhere to Shanovo. And I wait 4 years that the bishop said something in Kashubian. Is that the biggest mass for Kashubian? Yeah? Kaszubska Madonna. Yeah? The bishop from Pelplin, Bishop Kasina, never said a word to the Kashubian people in a Kashubian language. I was very shocked. And every time I walked to the big mass of the Kashubian in the Outpost Sunovia Chanovo, and I never heard that the bishop said any word in the Kashubian language to the Kashubian people. It's our biggest church event in the year, and I didn't hear any word from him. And I believe also that the church has big. I don't know the right word, but there's a problem, because when the people believe they can believe to the God in a certain language, then it's a problem. No? When we have today a mass and it was fully in Kashubian language, but the church, I think, is a problem. Okay, you are very proud, as you told, as a nation, because I think in people in Kaszubia, they didn't talk when they talk about Kaszubia. Anytime I didn't hear the word nation, and you taught you are proud. You are the U.S. people who are very proud to be U.S. citizens. I don't know what can I say about it, because it's very special, because when I get an interview with Kashubian, they didn't talk so many times about nation. Why is it important to talk about Kashubian as a nation and not as a part of Poland, not as a part of Sweden, not as a part of Germany? Why do you think it's important to take the word nation? It's a very big and important word.
Identity.
Identity?
Absolutely identity. Everybody identifies and is connected to a nation. Everyone. It doesn't matter anywhere in the world, right? They're all connected to a nation. And if you get into the definition of a nation, it's about a people that have their own land, their language, traditions, and so on. That is a nation. And so definitely we are a nation. The only thing we do not have is our own administration, our own government, right? That doesn't matter. The Catalonians, they are a nation. The Sicilians are a nation, yet they are ruled, Sicily in this case, Italy, and Spain is, administrating Catalonia, right? So just because you are not, have the status of a how do you say, a government, status of a country or whatever, that does not mean you're not a nation, right? I live in Canada, and there's 6 nations, First Nations that they call. Right now in Canada, I'm living on Algonquin land. And the Algonquins are a nation. They're not a country. You don't have to be a country, right? You don't have to have a status of a country to be a nation. So I think right now, sometimes someone can see something a lot more clear when they live far away. But if you're right there and it's in front of you, you become blind, right? And for myself, people can listen to this or not, but there's a lot of people that are connecting to this not just an idea, but the reality is that we are a nation. You can't take that away. When the European Union was formed and so on, they identify Kaszubia as a nation without a question. The only nation in Europe that does not identify the Kaszub nation or Kaszubia nation is the government in Warsaw. They don't want to hear that, right? Basically, they want to, I would say, in a way, wipe out that whole thing. Nope, you're all Polish. You're under a Polish government. This is it. All the papers should be in Polish and all that. You should not be identified of who rules and controls your land.
What do you think the fear of the Warsaw government? It doesn't matter if peace or PO takes over the government. The fear is every time you can feel it, because Remus is not a book that every pupil in Pomerania has to read. I think everybody who wants to live in Kaszubin has to read this book, because then you can understand in what area you live. Why do you think there is so much centralistic ideas of Warsaw and the fear of Kashubian that there may be? There's always the fear that we separate. But there's always in the discussion when you talk about Kashubian, they say, "Oh, you want to separate." Okay. No,
I'll tell you what. That whenever somebody says that, I absolutely want to tell everybody that I am not in any way a separatist. Anybody that talks like me is not a separatist, right? Kaszub made a decision in 1920 that they wanted to be together with Poland. There's no question about it, right? They had a choice to stay with Germany or Prussian Germany. No, they select that. So, and the reason they did this, because there's 2 sides to this story. There's 2 nations, 2 Slavic nations. There's Kaszubia and there's Poland, right? And together they're going to be stronger. What Poland gets from Kaszubia is that they are not landlocked. Kaszubia is borders the south shore of the Baltic Sea. And without Kaszubia, Poland does not have access to the sea. And what does Kaszubia get out of it? Military strength. Together, if there's an invasion into Kaszubia or into Poland, they will fight together, absolutely fight together. And of course, economy, right? So there's a trade-off, and they are good neighbors. The only thing that the Kaszubs should be asking is, you know what, is this a fair relationship, a good have we got a good neighbor? And if a Kaszub identifies themselves as a Kaszub, it does not mean that they're is separatist in any way. If you're talking about national identity, yes, there is a separation. There must be a separation. We speak, Kaszub speak Kashubian, Polish speak Polish. We have our own traditions, so do the Poles, and so on. That you can say that it is separate, because it is separate. But when it comes to political, they want to be together because they want to protect their land And that's basically it. So if somebody ever says that I'm a separatist or somebody talking like this to me, I'm going to stop them right there.
That's a big, important position. Why do you think the Kashubian situation under German influence was better for the Kashubian than Polish? It was that the Polish language is very similar in a way to the Polish, or why there was the situation under Prussia for the Kashubian better? Because I think that 200 years ago, everybody here in Banino speak Kashubian, and now when we go to the streets, you can hear almost the Polish language.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the reality is, and here's a fact, is that under Prussian-German rule, every Kaszub spoke Kashubian, 100%. And the proof is in Canada, every Kaszub that immigrated at that time spoke Kashubian, and Kashubian only, right? So, you know, sometimes I hear from the Polish people said, oh, Prussian's bad, German bad. And in this case here, tell me where they were bad if they let them build their own churches. When, you know, when my answer, we had no problem building church. They could speak their language, no problem. You know, if they went to school, like I said earlier, yeah, they could learn a second language, in that case with German, right? So, and then being told that we are Polish and we speak Polish, well, why didn't we speak Polish? Because we were not Polonized in any way. We had nothing to do with Poland. Absolutely nothing in the 1800s. Zero. So under Prussian-German rule at the time, I would have to say that our language was stronger because we are proof in Canada.
The case was sometimes when Kashubian became Poland, that in some families the people speak first language was Kashubian and the second language was German, and they didn't speak any word Polish. And the Polish came to the houses and they want to communicate with the people and they didn't know what they are talking about. So it was a strange situation. Okay, yesterday you were at the Zjazd Kaszubów in Kweszyna. How do you feel it? What was the impression?
My impression is, I've got many different impressions and all that, but to be in that parade, to be in the community of Lipusz, where my ancestors came from, and that parade, you know, every town was so proud, everything was gold and black. You know what, my first visit here, I saw one Kashubian flag, and this was in 1909 with my father and my uncle. And what I saw yesterday, to be part of that procession down the street and all that, I was so proud. I knew I was home. I was in Kaszubia, the home and natal land of my ancestors here in Europe. And now when we got to church, here we go again. We walked into the church, beautiful church, right? What language was spoken there? It was Polish. Thrown in with some Kashubian. Well, thank you very much, right? So some of the young did the first reading, second reading. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So, but that's where you lose your identity, and I know our ancestors did because there was Polish influence in the church. Now, going back in after the church, we went and prayed it into where the stage was and where the music was. And right off the beginning, I'm looking at is Polonization. And I'm saying Polonization because here they are, they call this festival. Finally, the Kaszubs got a festival all for themselves. All things Kashubian they should be celebrating, right? And there are the politicians up there, you know, rhyming off the old Polish national anthem, you know. And then the next one, they had a poem, or I should say a hymn, anthem that was written by Derdowski, yeah? And Derdowski Polonized all Kaszubs. He was saying, I'm a Kaszub, yet he made us Polish. And that anthem had talked about, you know, Kaszubia and then going down to Krakow and all this kind of stuff, eh? There's an anthem that Jan Trepchik wrote, Rodna Ziemia, strong Kashubian, no political, nothing political. It's about how proud they are of their homeland. Eh? Was that sung there? Absolutely not. And this is something that I say, if you want to save your identity and culture, you better stop that. The next festival, I'm probably not going to be here, but you don't sing the Polish national anthem. You do not sing that Polonized anthem. You sing Rodna Ziemia. That to me, if you want to keep your identity. Having said all that, I got up on the stage and I told them in Kashubian, Jestem Kaszëbë, yo nie am Polak. Absolutely, I said that in Kashubian. But
And what was the reaction when you said it?
you know
People were
what?
shocked?
No, at the end they cheered and clapped when I was finished, right?
Okay.
Because and the reason I told them that I'm not Polish is because my great-grandfather and grandparents, they were not born in Poland, right? They were born in Kaszubia. So they're starting to understand it. I really would like, I always say, I'm trying to create some noise here and awareness, right? I'm saying things that I want them to think about. They don't have to believe anything I'm saying, but I am not lying when I'm saying I am not Polish. I am not Polish. I have got nothing to do with Poland. I don't speak Polish, and my ancestors were not born in Poland. So how can somebody tell me I'm telling a lie? I'm not telling a lie. Yeah? So having said all that again, when all that political stuff was over, the kids dancing in their Kashubian costume, absolutely perfect. I go out into the crowds and everybody coming up to welcome, speaking Kashubian, and the ones that could speak it, right? And they could not believe that someone that was born 5 generations ago, that he speaks Kashubian. They just could not believe it. Young people came up to me and said, wow, they are so impressed, right? So, and everything that I saw there, it was a sea of gold and black. Kashubian national flags, national emblem, the griffin, all over the place. That is identity, right?
Okay. Why the details are so important? Because you are a very good observer, and you came out of the Kashubian community, and you are a very good observer. And I tell you something about my experience. I went with the Kashubian pilgrim, kaszubska pielgrzymka, and the only Kashubian element was that we have flags from Poland and from Kaszubia, and Ksiądz priest Pershon, a very famous priest here in Kaszubia, he sang one time Kaszebskie Królewo. When I went to the pilgrim, I thought, okay, Kaszebsczi pilgrim, Kaszebska pielgrzymka, and this is the only elements of this Kashubian. It could be also French pilgrim or German pilgrim. It doesn't matter, because it was too few. There were not many elements of the Kashubian. Kaszubska pielgrzymka, they have to pray in Kashubian language, to try it even, but they didn't. And the problem is not that they don't sing many Kashubian songs. The people, the reaction of people. I was the only one who thought, oh shit, what was it here? What is it? But the Kashubian which live here, they didn't care.
Yeah, I know.
Do you observe some others? Do you see something like this? I told you in when you visit Kaszubia, that the people don't care. You told them that you are a nation, and they look at you and nation. What nation? Shit, we are Polish, only Polish. But and when you say you are a nation, then they think you want to separate, and they always they talk about this game. And why the details are so important? Why we have to stay at Rodna Ziemia and not at the Dowski hymn? Why do you think this is very important when we want to live 100, 200, maybe 1,000 years later as a Kashubian?
It's all about identity, everybody I know, especially in Canada, is a good example. It's a land of many nations, and there. I mean, any nation you can rhyme off, and they will say who they are. If I ask an Irish, someone that came from Irish, and I'm Irish, and they're very proud of it. German, no problem. Everybody has their identity. You know, why can't the Kaszubs have their own identity? Well, guess what? They do have their own identity. It was taken from them, you know, could be even called genocide. When someone takes away your identity, it could be genocide, right? So the thing here is that, and we're not the only nation, there's many nations out there, right? It's about identifying yourself connected to the nation. Everybody is connected to a nation. And I know for a fact that I'm connected to Kaszubia, without a question. It's not about separation, it's about identification.
And that helps the country Poland, because when Poland consists of many nations, it can be good for Poland. No? Because sometimes I think the government in Warsaw, they think that everyone in Poland should have the same history, because I think the history of a region is very important, and it's the most important thing that children have to learn first the history of the region and then the history of Warsaw, of Krakow, because it comes later. No? And when people realize that the history is complex, that it's not that he was Kashubian and the Second World War, it's very complicated, this situation, and then people didn't know the history, and but they have an opinion, you know, and this is a problem.
Yeah. I'm going to cut this off because I have to go upstairs and all that, but you know what, it's about identification without a question in that. So, and I think that's most important for sure. How can you save a culture if you don't know the name of the culture as it's identified? Now that we have identified and we know who we are, we can start promoting it, right? And you have to stop saying this region. Don't you ever say this is a region in anybody's country. This is not a region. This is the home and native land of my ancestors. That's number one, right? The language that I speak is the native language. It is not a regional language like most people say in Polish. Don't ever say that to me. Ever say that to me. Because you have to identify, there's the homeland, there's the native language, traditions, so on. And Warsaw treats us as regional people, regional language, no, stop that. I'm saying to Warsaw, stop it. If you want to help the Kaszub people identify us as a nation within, together with another nation. Simple as that.
Thank you very much, Mr. David Shulist. I was very glad that you have time to speak about so very, very big, different and very, very strange problems. It's not easy. I wish you that you can visit many times in Kaszubia, and I wish the people in Kaszubia that there could be, I think, about 50 there, that they can, when they watch this video, that they find something in their heart that are Kashubians and to be proud, because you are very proud to be Kashubian, and I like this very much, that you are so proud. You're proud of your nation, you're proud of this language, and I wish that the people in Kaszubia could be also all there.
I hope I can make a difference here and all that. Yes, once I found out who my real identity and so on, I'm so proud, and I'm so proud that I can still speak that native tongue of my ancestors, which a lot of people don't. So it all depends on how you want to embrace it. You know how I've embraced it. If you don't want to embrace it, that's up to you. Once the culture and language and all is lost, look in the mirror and ask yourself, was I part of that problem? Yeah? I am not going to be the problem. I am the solution. You know, I want to save it. I want to keep it going. I want to keep it alive, right? What do you want to do? That's the question.
Thank you very much. It was great.